Hey everyone, David C. Anderson coming at you from the KnifeCenter, and CRKT has just dropped their new for 2023 lineup, and we're here to take a look at some of the highlights. Let's check them out. All right, first up, we've got some new Provokes, and the first Provoke, not a karambit, and that is the Provoke EDC, we'll call it a drop-pointed blade. Definitely a more everyday-friendly blade than the hooked blade of, the original. Very, very cool. The frame on the Provoke EDC is closer to the Provoke Mini, the smaller size, as opposed to the full-size frame. You can actually see it next to the Trainer right here, which is also available. And it's just a really cool looking piece. The finish on them I think is the best of any yet. The blue aluminum on the handle is very cool. It still has that hideaway pocket clip there at the ring at the back. They've also done some things like making it easier to operate the lock, as opposed to the original unlocking tab right here, which you can see again on the Trainer here. We've got a more user-friendly tab, shall we say. Push that back and you can shake it loose if you want, or more deliberately close it, of course, as well. So that's the package when it's closed up. You've got a chisel ground D2 blade about 2.5 inches, and to get to it, simply hold the knife like so with the ring through your index finger, and you can push on that back arm, and it launches the blade right out quite nicely. I know I said chisel ground. It is not technically a chisel ground because it is sharpened on both sides, but it is a single flat grind on the one side, and that helps keep the edge away from snagging too much else, since the edge is closer to that aluminum frame. Very, very cool. Price on this is going to be about $175. Let me just check, see if I make sure I didn't miss any specs. D2 steel, 2.56 inches on the blade. Yeah, very, very cool piece. The Trainer is going to come in at about $100. Did I read that right? Yes, $100, or $99.99. Same price as the other Grivery models out there, as opposed to the full aluminum versions. And not much more to say other than that it's a Trainer Provoke. People have been asking for this. Now we've got it. There you go. So you can see what I mean. The unlocking tab is a little more fiddly to use than the new one on the EDC. But you've got more room on the handle with these for sure. And now, for folks who need to use this professionally, the Trainer's gonna be a nice addition. Also, we have got some line extensions to some of their very popular models. The first here is the Pilar IV. Yes, Provoke. I'm just checking other specs as we go. Price on this is going to be around the $60 mark, and I should say with most of these, I'm actually not looking at our final prices. These are estimates right now, so if you follow the links in the description to go check any of this stuff out, may or may not be a little bit different. So these are ballpark numbers at the very least. But what do we have here? Blade length is just over 3 inches. You've got D2 steel with that aggressive clip point shape. Very, very cool looking. But basically this kind of takes the essence of the Pilar III that was released last year and channels it into this new blade shape. And what I mean by that is the handle and pivot construction is pretty much the same. You've got G10 on the front, stainless steel frame lock on the back, brass back spacer there, gives you a pop of color and balances the weight out a little bit. And you've got ball bearings in the pivot. One opening method, that is the thumb cutout right there, which works just fine. And if you want to go do the reverse flick, does that equally well. Very, very cool. Nice little slicey, pokey take on kind of the Pilar formula, which usually comes with, the more cleaver-esque sheep's foot style blades. As for in the hand, it's kind of a 3.5 finger grip for me just on the main handle section. My hands are, of course, slightly larger than average, but you've got that choke up point on the choil there if you need a little more real estate. We've also got new versions of the CEO series and a newer, even smaller version than the even smaller version they released last year. These are the CEO Microflipper models that are being released. Yes, it's even smaller, which I found quite surprising, but interestingly, I think these are a bit more blocky. And as a consequence, I think it's a little easier to open for me than the mini, the standard, now middle-sized CEO flipper. I'm not sure why, but it just seems to work a little more well than I anticipated. That was my first reaction. Oh, you're going smaller? I wonder if I'm going to be able to flip it. Well, I can flip it. The materials here for these base models are a little bit of a step up from the standard versions of the mini and the full-size CEO flipper, in that we have actual aluminum scales here, not an injection molded handle. And that's probably why they're flat too, because if you wanted to machine it into an arced or rounded shape like the other models, it's going to take more machine time, cost more money. Price on these is going to be about $60. You've got the aluminum, you've got ball bearings in the pivot, and I believe, yes, we've got 12C27 Sandvik steel right here. Really cool material. I'm a big fan of the Sandvik family of steels in general, so I'm glad to see them using a little bit more of it. Blade length, about 2.3 something inches on this one, and you've also got the sheep's footy reverse tanto-y thing going on. It's just a skosh shorter, in fact. So if we hold them up together, there we go. It's about that much shorter. But same materials, different color, as you can see, but you've got the 12C27, you've got the aluminum. This is kind of an interesting choice for a blade shape, I'd say. It definitely gives you some precision, maybe some like creating packages, that sort of thing. Small little utility craft knife almost. Pretty cool. All right, next up, we've got the Tuna Compact, continuing the compacting trend going on with some of their popular models. Lucas Burnley design. With this, we've got a blade, I just looked at it and yet I forgot, about 2 3/4 of an inch long, 8CR steel, stainless steel frame lock, black stonewashed finish, and G10 on the front. Some nice copper colored accents. And unlike the full-size Tuna, we don't have washers in this pivot. We've got ball bearings. And as such, it's even flickier than the original. And it still honestly holds in the hand pretty securely. Doesn't feel too shrimpy. I do get all 4 of my fingers on there yeah, that works. And that's an advantage of the design here at front that allows you to get your hand, I should say, right up to that back edge. No wasted space on this design. Very, very cool little piece. Yeah, I don't know much more to say about that. Stonewashed finish, you folks know I like that. As you use the knife, inevitably you're going to scratch it, so a stonewashed finish is a nice thing because they will blend in to that finish a little bit more and help you keep it looking nice even longer. Next up, as I check my computer over here, the Squid Compact. Did I say the price on the Tuna?
I don't remember.
Just under $50 for this, like 47 to 50, somewhere in that range, I think is where this is going to sit. Next, quite affordable, less than $30, probably somewhere between 25 and 30. We've got the Squid Compact, 1 3/4 inch blade on this guy. 8CR steel, stainless steel handle with the frame lock. This one doesn't feel too shrimpy either, quite honestly. It's a little bit less of a grip than the Overland, that's for sure. It's only a 3-finger grip for me, but the width of it goes a long way to mitigating that. And honestly, with a blade this short, a lot of the cuts I'm gonna be doing are either gonna be small things like this, or I'm gonna be using a pinch grip anyway. And you definitely have a little bit more purchase there. This is an assisted opening knife, which in a way makes a little more sense on these smaller blades because it can otherwise sometimes take a little bit to get them to move, especially as you could see there, using the thumb studs if you want. It takes a little bit of effort to get my hands into the right position, so the spring actually helps assist the opening there in a very appreciated way. Of course, the flipper works very, very easily too. Roughly deep carry pocket clip right there. Nice folded over design, stable feeling frame lock. There you go. Another Lucas Burnley design, of course, as well. Now we've got 2 more TJ Schwartz designs. We have the Overland Compact. This is also going to be right around that $50 mark. 2¼ inch blade, D2 steel on this, and there it is. Very nice. G10 on the front, stonewashed black finish on the back, orange accents, very much the same color scheme as the full-sized Overland. But interestingly, the handle is taller than on the full-sized Overland because it's also considerably shorter too. And even more so than, actually, definitely more so than the Squid Compact. This feels actually quite secure in the hand. A little bit of extra width there by comparison does go a long way. Yeah, despite that size, this is really solid. This could potentially be a competitor to something like the Cold Steel Tough Light, perhaps. Kind of that similar small yet aggressive utility knife thing going on. Yeah, D2 steel's a nice thing there. You're gonna get pretty darn good edge retention and deep carry pocket clip. Not reversible, it's a right hand bias lock though too, so. Now this one hews close to the original of the original Overland in that it does not get ball bearings. You have washers in this pivot, but for a work knife, I actually think that's very appropriate since, you know, it's a little better at resisting dust and that sort of thing, grime, grit, etc. And I really do think of this more as a kind of a utility knife or a work knife, whereas the original Overland was still pretty compact. It was a roughly 3-inch blade. That was thought of as a kind of EDC food prep style knife. It could do utility stuff too, don't get me wrong. But there's not a ton of food prep you're gonna be wanting to do with this. Instead, I think the new shape kind of transforms it, pushes it in a little bit of a different direction, but one that feels super solid. The next TJ Schwartz design is the Dextro, and I think this is my favorite new folder of this drop. The materials and the price come in at a really nice place. We're somewhere between 55 and 60 bucks with this. You've got a blade about 2¼ inches long, D2 tool steel, nice grind, good blend between everyday sliceability and a little bit more strength. Flat ground up 2/3 of the way, more or less, and then the swedge there to remove some drag. Aluminum for the handles, not injection molded, not G10. We've got full bore aluminum here with a really good matte texture to it. It's not slick or slippery, and you can kind of hear it. Hold it a little closer. It's kind of just exactly what you want. You got enough grip and you've got the rigidity and the solid feel of aluminum. And these ridges milled down into each side of the handle give you even more grip, especially if turning things in a pinch grip back behind the pivot. Very nice. All 4 of my fingers fit on there, no problem. Pinky is kind of hitting on the beak right there, but it's nice and rounded over. It doesn't feel uncomfortable at all. Yeah, really, really nice. Inset liner lock, nice touch, so you don't see any more of the liner, but that. Ball bearings in the pivot and your choice of thumb studs or the flipper. And yes, I realize I did it backwards based on how I was saying that, but no matter, you take my point. Yeah, really cool design, solid, good value, something that can cover a lot of different genres very easily. All right, next we have a couple of new onion designs. The first is the Ken Onion Jake. It's got several names, the Ken and the Jake and the Onion. It's a really, really cool shape. A bit more premium, there's a bit more complexity going on in the handle here. This knife is gonna come in about $100 actually. Blade is about 3.3 inches long. You've got a horizontal finish, a bit more premium feeling than most of the blade finishes they do. 12C27 steel on it as well, and just a fantastic shape, quite honestly. Plenty of belly for slicing, full flat grind, drop point. I mean, it's everything I look for in a blade, quite honestly. Those are always kind of my preferences, but this is gonna work really well for general purpose anything, basically. As for the handle, it is aluminum. We've got this bronzed finish and G10 inlays front and back. Knurled kind of diamond plate texture or diamond style texture milled in, and that continues in the aluminum frame right there. And a great handle shape for serving a broad range of hand sizes. It's got that kind of elliptical motif that just sits in quite nicely. And if your hands are too big, the handle will still work because it just conforms to whatever fingers you are able to get onto it. But you're gonna have some fairly big hands to extend too far past the back here. Or, you know, if you're wearing gloves, that could push things out too. But nice shape overall. We do have a single-sided pocket clip. It's folded over, not quite deep carry, but it is nestled into the G10, and the screw heads themselves are also flush mounted. So no snag point there, but you are gonna get a little bit of texture from that G10 right underneath the main part of the clip as you go in and out. Cool little details here. It definitely feels a bit more premium than most of their more budget-oriented stuff. I even like this little backspacer detail here that continues the shape of the handle, gives you that cutout at the same time. A lot of cool stuff. As for the rest, I didn't talk about the liner lock. Again, we've got an inset liner there. We've got IKBS ball bearings. Flipping action is decent. Yeah, very, very nice design. Next, we have another onion, but not a Ken onion. This is a Kenny onion. Ken's son has actually designed this, which is why on the back you see Onion Junior design, as opposed to Onion design, as you see on the back of the previous knife, which I've already forgotten the name. That's not good. The Jake.
I would have called him Ken Sunyon.
Ken Sunyon. That's excellent. That's fantastic. Oh man, if I ever meet him, I'll have to let him know. But yeah. No, probably not. That would be rude. This is the Bamboozled, and there's a bit of that kind of Onion family DNA in it too, like in the actual shape. It's really cool. Let me just check the specs here, because Thomas distracted me with a great joke, and I've forgotten the specs real quickly.
Mission accomplished.
D2 blade, about 3.3 inches, thereabouts, similar length to the Jake. Price is going to be right around that, you know, between 65 and 70, probably somewhere right in the middle there for it. Yeah, great blade shape. It's kind of an elongated penknife blade in a way, getting some vibes kind of like that. Stainless steel bolster, black G10 scales, not technically inlays. I almost said inlays though. Just a classic look, really. I mean, that bolster with the black, always a good look. Liner lock, assisted opening mechanism, great firing action. And the cool thing about CRKT's assist system, which I haven't mentioned yet, is I find it easier to use than other assisted opening systems. Not because it's weaker, because it definitely fires out strong, but they've engineered the ramps or something on the inside where that torsion spring rides to make it a little easier to close, and it just sucks in right there at the tail end of the action. Just feels fantastic, quite honestly. We've also got a deep ride clip here, hides pretty much all of that handle, and like the Jake, it is inset to the line, or inset to the G10, and flush mounted screws. Very, very comfortable, very, very easy, and pocket friendly. Next, we have some fixed blades. Yes, the first is the S.P.I.T, which stands for Small Pocket Inverted Tanto, which means Thomas gets to call this his favorite blade shape.
A reverse Tanto.
I thought it was cheese knife.
Yeah.
This one's even cheese flavored with the G10 here.
It's the cheese Tanto.
It's the cheese flavored reverse Tanto knife. Really cool, kind of takes that, like the Spec and the Spew knives, that kind of size, that kind of handle, and gives it this more utility driven blade shape. Price on these are gonna be, I think around like 37, 38, something like that. 8CR steel, just over 2 inches of blade there, and hollow ground. You got a very fine tip, thin behind the edge. That's gonna be a cool little cutter day to day. Definitely use that tip very well, and if you need to push it into a bigger cut, the handle itself is not gonna give you like a great gorilla grip, but it is pretty secure in your saber grip, like so, if you need to push down. It's kind of a 3-finger grip for me. I still need the fob there to get my 4th finger on that, kind of like the Minimalist series, but overall, just really nice. We have a sheath. It is set up out of the box for neck carry, like so. It's molded plastic. We also have a plastic belt loop that can be attached to this, so you can carry it that way if you prefer. The other big news this year is saved right for the end. We have several new Razel designs in. Fixed blade, including some pocket fixed blade designs. Because as you can see from the sheath on this new Razel Compact, that would be very easily pocket carried. It's a little broad, sure, but the clip is perfectly set up for something like that. Would also work, of course, inside the waistband if you wanted to slip that over the outside hem of your pants. No problem whatsoever. And starting with the Razel Compact, here it is. D2 steel, should be less than 50 bucks when it comes out. You've got the standard edge, you've got the sharpened leading edge coming to a very sharp tip, not very acute, it's a little broad of course, but a very sharp tip. Other cool details that we get on the forward edge of the spine there, we've got some VEF flat top serrations, which means the actual kind of peaks aren't particularly sharp, but the serrations themselves are, so you can get that dig into whatever you're needing to cut. Some rope perhaps, maybe not thick diameter rope with this small section, but those teeth are gonna grab pretty nicely. Other little detail I really like is this little scoop at the back end of the handle leading to that lanyard fob right there. Gives a real natural place for one's finger to sit when you grab the sheath. Really, really cool. Price on this one, if I didn't mention, should be less than 50 bucks, I believe. We've got a skeletonized version, which I don't have here in front of me. We've also got a larger fixed blade version. This one has a 3-inch D2 blade and should be right around the $60 mark. No VEF flat top serrations, and you've got a much more squared off front sharpened edge on this one as opposed to something with an angle like on the Compact right there. A little bit thicker as well. This has the feel of just workhorse job site utility beater on a small form factor. That should stand up to quite a bit of abuse, I think. Micarta handles, red liners, red pins as well. So this is going to be actually epoxied and pinned with those cross-through pins through the handle itself. Should hold up pretty well, I think. I really dig the vibes of this one especially. Love that color combination. Same kind of sheath, bit larger, admittedly. You will have to make sure you have a big enough pockets if you intend to carry this in your pocket, but other arrangements could of course always be made. Yeah, just a really fantastic feeling piece. All 4 of my fingers fit on no problem. Got protruding tang there at the back. Everything on it rounded over. None of it is crisp, so you could change that if you like. Very, very cool. And perhaps, nay probably, nay definitely, my favorite this year, the Nax, Razel Nax. It's gonna come in right about that $100 mark, I think. Let me just check my, my notes here. Ooh, actually might be closer to the $90 mark. Really cool. The blade itself is about 4 inches long, 1075 carbon steel, sharpened leading edge, mostly straight with just a hint of belly on the main edge, rustic finish, micarta handles, and you could probably guess by those specs and how it looks that yes, this is made by the same folks that make Condor knives for CRKT. Very, very cool, El Salvadorian made. So the name Nax is supposed to be a kind of blend between knife and axe, of course. Maybe hatchet would be more appropriate than axe, but yeah, what's the overall length on this? Let me see here. About 11 inches, so not huge, still a manageable thing, but you can definitely choke way back on this. Feels really comfortable with just 3 of my fingers on the back here, and then you've got lanyard tubes here so you could always extend your grip with something for your pinky to wrap around. And that honestly, even without it, feels pretty secure. You can hit a little bit harder with that, engage your snap cuts and really get some power out of this thing, and then choke right up behind it for all the actual knife work you might be wanting to do. Obviously intended more for an kind of outdoor scenario, but you could use this around the shop too, I would think. Really nice details we don't usually see from this manufacturer, and that's something like a crowned spine here above in front of the pad for your thumb. Nice little detail. That's gonna make it real kind if you're using this to baton anything with, or using it kind of gripping. Yeah, this maybe not be great for draw knife stuff. I tried it there, but hand kind of covers up all of the blade in the process. So, but doing things like this, pushing with your thumb, utilizing that way, This thing is just really darn cool. I like it. I'm gonna need to get one of these and play around with it. Comes with a Kydex sheath, single snap retention loop there. Really cool. Only thing I might want to see is maybe another version, about 25% bigger maybe. Get even more hitting power, but this thing's just really cool. Full stop. That's my favorite.
Okay.
Thomas, do you have a favorite?
Cheese.
Great way to end. That is all I've got to show you today. All of this stuff, including the rest of CRKT's new 2023 lineup that's being unveiled right now, will be available at the links in the description. You can check them out there, and those will take you to KnifeCenter.com. Don't forget, of course, about our Knife Rewards program, because if you're gonna be buying a knife anyway, which chances are, if you're here, you probably are, you might as well earn some free money to spend on your next one. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center, and that's Thomas behind the camera. See you next time.